What would you do if saving one life meant changing the fate of entire worlds? In the depths of space, where the cold void swallows screams and hope dies in silence, humanity has always been told we are weak. Too soft. Too emotional. Too willing to risk everything for creatures we barely understand. The Galactic Council was wrong. When Dr. Marcus Chen stumbled upon a dying alien in the wreckage of an unknown vessel, he didn't see a potential threat or a valuable specimen. He saw a mother in agony, fighting to bring life into a universe that had shown her nothing but cruelty. What happened next would shake the foundations of interstellar politics and prove that sometimes, the greatest strength isn't in our weapons or our technology, it's in our refusal to walk away when someone needs help. This is the story of how one human's compassion created the most feared protectors in the galaxy. This is the story of how we earned guardians we never knew we needed. And it all began with a simple choice: to help when helping seemed impossible. Dr. Marcus Chen floated through the twisted metal corridors of the derelict ship, his helmet lights cutting through darkness thick as oil. The silence pressed against his eardrums like a living thing. 3 days of searching the debris field had yielded nothing but scrap metal and radiation burns. The distress signal had stopped transmitting 6 hours ago. Command, this is Chen. Sector 7 Alpha appears empty. No signs of a sound cut through his calm static. Low. Rhythmic. Almost like breathing, but wrong somehow. Too deep. Too strained. Marcus killed his transmission and drifted toward the noise. The corridor opened into what might have been a cargo bay once. Now it looked like something had exploded from the inside out. Twisted metal formed abstract sculptures of destruction. And there, pinned beneath a collapsed bulkhead, lay something that made Marcus forget how to breathe. The creature was enormous. Maybe 12 feet from snout to tail, covered in midnight blue scales that shimmered with an oily rainbow pattern. For arms, each ending in hands that could probably crush a human skull like an egg. Its massive head turned toward him, and Marcus found himself staring into eyes the color of liquid gold. Pain. That's what he saw there. Not anger or threat or alien hunger. Just raw, desperate pain. The creature's lower body was trapped beneath tons of metal. Dark fluid seeped from wounds Marcus couldn't fully see. Each breath seemed to cost everything the being had left. Jesus, Marcus whispered, propelling himself closer despite every survival instinct screaming at him to run. What did they do to you? The creature's mouth opened, revealing rows of crystalline teeth, and it made a sound like breaking glass mixed with whale song. Marcus didn't understand the language, but he understood the tone. Help! Marcus activated his emergency beacon, then immediately shut it off. By the time a rescue team arrived, this creature would be dead. Hell, it might already be dying. The amount of blood or whatever that dark fluid was suggested massive internal trauma. Okay, Marcus said, more to himself than to the alien. Let's see what we're dealing with here. He pushed closer, fighting revulsion at the creature's size. Up close, he could see that the being wasn't just injured. Its lower abdomen was distended, moving with something that had nothing to do with breathing. Pregnant. The realization hit Marcus like a physical blow. This creature wasn't just dying. It was trying to give birth while dying. The alien's golden eyes tracked his movement. It made another sound, softer this time, almost questioning. One massive hand moved slowly, carefully, pointing to its swollen belly. You want me to help, Marcus said. Don't you? The creature's head moved in what might have been a nod. Marcus stared at the trapped alien for a long moment. Every regulation, every first contact protocol, every piece of common sense he'd ever learned told him to maintain distance. Wait for proper xenobiology teams. Follow procedure. The creature made another sound, weaker now. Screw procedure, Marcus muttered. He maneuvered his repair bot closer to the collapsed bulkhead. The little machine's plasma torch was designed for ship repairs, not surgery, but it might be enough to cut through the metal pinning the creature down. Listen, Marcus said, though he doubted the alien understood English. I'm going to try to get you free. Then, we figure out the rest. The cutting took 47 minutes. Marcus worked with surgical precision, stopping every time the creature showed signs of distress. The alien remained still except for its labored breathing and the increasingly violent movement in its abdomen. When the last piece of debris fell away, the creature tried to pull itself upright and collapsed immediately. The effort sent a fresh wave of dark fluid spreading across the deck. Marcus assessed the damage. Multiple lacerations across the creature's hide. Possible internal bleeding. And something was seriously wrong with the pregnancy. The alien's abdomen looked ready to rupture. "Okay," Marcus said, surprising himself with how calm his voice sounded. "I think your baby is coming whether we're ready or not." The creature's eyes fixed on his face. For a moment, Marcus felt something that might have been telepathic contact. Not words, exactly. More like emotional pressure. Desperation. Trust. Fear. Understanding. Right then, Marcus cracked his knuckles inside his gloves. "Let's deliver an alien baby." The next 4 hours pushed Marcus beyond everything he thought he knew about medicine, xenobiology, and his own limits. The creature's anatomy was like nothing in any textbook. Internal organs shifted position. Bone structure flexed. The pregnancy itself seemed to involve some kind of rapid genetic adaptation he couldn't begin to understand. But the basics remained the same. Life trying to enter the world. A mother in agony. The desperate need for someone to help. Marcus used his suit's medical kit, his repair tools, and more improvisation than he'd ever attempted in his life. The creature guided him with gestures, sounds, and that strange emotional pressure. Together, they formed the most unlikely medical team in galactic history. When the first infant emerged, Marcus nearly dropped it in shock. The baby was humanoid. Not human, exactly. The proportions were different. The skin held that same oily rainbow shimmer as its mother. But 2 arms, 2 legs, a recognizable head. It fit in Marcus's hands like any Earth newborn. The creature made a sound Marcus had never heard before. Pure joy mixed with exhaustion. "There's another one," Marcus said, staring at the mother's still distended abdomen. Twins. The second birth proved even more challenging. This infant seemed larger, less cooperative. For 20 terrifying minutes, Marcus thought he might lose both mother and child. But the creature fought. Even dying, even drained beyond measure, she fought for her children with a ferocity that left Marcus humbled. When the second baby finally slipped into Marcus's waiting hands, he found himself crying inside his helmet. "You did it," he whispered to the exhausted mother. "They're beautiful." The alien's massive hand reached out and gently touched Marcus's helmet. The emotional pressure returned, stronger now. Gratitude. Recognition. Something deeper than either. Bond. Marcus placed both infants against their mother's chest. The little ones immediately began making contented purring sounds. The mother's breathing grew steadier. For the first time since finding the wreckage, Marcus allowed himself to believe everything might be okay. That's when his calm system crackled to life. "Dr. Chen, this is Admiral Reeves. Your emergency beacon triggered 3 hours ago. We've got a full xenobiology team en route to your position. Maintain safe distance from any alien organisms until they arrive." Marcus looked at the mother, who was watching him with those golden eyes. The infants nestled against her massive form looked so small, so vulnerable. "Understood, Admiral," Marcus said. "But, you should know, the situation here is more complicated than we thought." He cut the transmission and settled in to wait, one hand resting protectively near the alien family he'd helped bring together. He had no idea that his simple act of compassion had just changed the trajectory of human-alien relations forever. The first part of that change was already growing in the cargo bay with him, 2 small beings who would soon learn that the strange creature who'd helped them enter the world was something special. Something worth protecting. The rescue ship arrived 12 hours later, bristling with enough firepower to level a small moon. Admiral Reeves led the boarding party personally, followed by a full xenobiology team in environmental suits that made them look like walking tanks. Marcus had spent those 12 hours learning more about alien physiology than most humans would discover in a lifetime. The mother creature had recovered remarkably quickly once freed from the wreckage. Her species apparently possessed regenerative abilities that put human healing to shame. The twins had grown visibly in just half a day, their movements becoming more coordinated, their eyes focusing with startling intelligence. "Step away from the organisms, Dr. Chen," Admiral Reeves commanded as soon as he entered the cargo bay. "We'll take it from here." Marcus didn't move. He remained seated beside the alien family, the twins curled up against their mother's massive form. "They're not organisms, Admiral. They're people. They're unknown xenological specimens that could pose a threat to." The mother alien moved. Not aggressively, but with fluid grace that belied her enormous size. She positioned herself protectively between the armed humans and her children, those golden eyes fixed on Admiral Reeves with unmistakable intelligence. Then, she did something that stunned everyone present. She spoke. "Your Marcus helped." The words came out strangely accented, filtered through vocal cords never designed for human speech, but unmistakably English. "He saved my children." The silence stretched like a held breath. "How long has it been speaking our language?" Admiral Reeves demanded. Marcus corrected firmly. "And she's been learning while we waited for you. Her species appears to have remarkable linguistic adaptation abilities." During the previous hours, Marcus had discovered that the alien mother, who called herself Ketra in sounds that approximated human phonetics, possessed intelligence that might surpass human norms. She absorbed language, concepts, and cultural nuances with frightening speed. The twins, despite being newborns, showed similar potential. "I am Ketra of the Valerian Guard," she continued, her English improving with each word. "My ship was attacked by raiders who seek to harvest Valerian young for dark purposes. Marcus found us. Marcus chose to help rather than flee or wait for safer approach." One of the xenobiology team members, Dr. Sarah Webb, stepped forward cautiously. "The Valerian Guard? We have no record of that designation in any galactic database." Ketra's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. "Your databases are incomplete. My people were keepers of peace in sectors your kind has never seen. We served the old councils, before the current Galactic Federation claimed dominion over disputed territories." Admiral Reeves's expression darkened. "The Federation has legitimate authority over the Federation," Ketra interrupted, "knows nothing of the shadow wars being fought in the Outer Rim. They know nothing of species like the Devourers, who consume the young of sentient races to fuel their own genetic adaptations. The Valerian Guard was created to stop such abominations." Marcus felt pieces of a larger puzzle clicking together. "That's why the raiders attacked your ship. They were after your children specifically." "Yes." Ketra's massive hand gently stroked one of the twins. "Valerian infants possess unique genetic markers that make them valuable to many predatory species. This is why my kind developed such strong protective instincts. Why we evolved to be formidable guardians." Dr. Webb was scanning the twins with a handheld device. "These readings are extraordinary. Their neural development is progressing at an accelerated rate. They're not just growing physically, they're becoming smarter by the hour." As if to demonstrate her point, one of the twins opened its eyes and looked directly at Marcus. The infant's gaze held a disturbing amount of awareness for something only hours old. "They recognize you," Ketra said to Marcus. "In our culture, the first being a Valerian child sees after birth becomes bonded to them. A protector figure. But this is the first time in our history that a non-Valerian has formed such a bond." Admiral Reeves stepped closer, hand resting on his sidearm. "And what exactly does this bond entail?" Ketra's golden eyes fixed on the Admiral with an intensity that made the man take a step backward. "It means Marcus Chen has become family to my children. And family to a Valerian is sacred above all else." The implications hung in the air like a time bomb. Over the following days, as Ketra and her twins were transported to a Federation research facility, Marcus found himself caught between military protocol and something deeper than duty. The twins, who Ketra named Zara and Kane, continued their rapid development. By the third day, they were walking. By the fifth, they were speaking simple words in both their native tongue and English. They also refused to leave Marcus's side. "This is unprecedented," Dr. Webb reported to Admiral Reeves and the assembled Federation Council via hologram. "The Valerian infants show signs of genetic imprinting that goes beyond anything we've observed. They're not just bonded to Dr. Chen, they're protective of him." The proof came during the second week of their stay at the research facility. A new doctor, Dr. Harrison, had attempted to draw blood samples from Marcus for comparison with Valerian genetic markers. The moment the needle touched Marcus's skin, both twins reacted. Zara, barely 2 weeks old but already the size of a human toddler, positioned herself between the doctor and Marcus. Kane flanked the other side. Neither made aggressive moves, but their intent was unmistakable. "Hurt Marcus, hurt us," Zara said in her developing voice. "Not allowed." Dr. Harrison laughed nervously. "They're just children. Surely they don't pose any real threat." Ketra's response wiped the smile from his face. "Doctor, a Valerian child possesses strength equivalent to your adult humans by their first month of life. By 6 months, they will be capable of crushing steel with their bare hands. My children may appear young, but they are already more dangerous than most of your soldiers." She fixed Dr. Harrison with that unsettling golden stare. "And they have decided that Marcus is theirs to protect." The research continued, but under very different parameters. Federation xenologists studied Valerian physiology while political analysts tried to understand the implications of the growing bond between a human and two rapidly maturing alien guardians. Marcus found himself at the center of discussions that went far beyond simple first contact protocols. The Federation was facing something they'd never encountered, a protective relationship between species that transcended normal diplomatic boundaries. "The question," Admiral Reeves said during a private meeting with Marcus, "is whether this bond represents an opportunity or a threat." Marcus watched through the observation window as Zara and Kane played with puzzles designed for much older children. They solved complex problems in minutes, their intelligence growing as rapidly as their bodies. "They're not threats, Admiral. They're children who've decided I'm worth protecting. The real question is what we do with that trust." "The Galactic Council is concerned about precedent," Admiral Reeves continued. "If humans can form these kinds of bonds with warrior species, it changes the balance of power in ways we can't predict." Through the window, Marcus saw Ketra approach her children. She spoke to them in their native language, a series of harmonious sounds that seemed to carry emotional undertones. The twins listened intently, then both turned to look at Marcus through the glass. They waved. "I think," Marcus said quietly, "the precedent has already been set. The only choice now is how we respond to it." What neither Marcus nor the Federation officials realized was that their conversations were being monitored by more than just human surveillance systems. In the Outer Rim territories, word was spreading through shadow networks about the human who had helped birth the last Valerian Guardians. The Devourers, the same raiders who had destroyed Ketra's ship, were learning about the bond that had formed between a human doctor and two beings who would soon become the most formidable protectors in the galaxy. And they were coming to finish what they had started. The peaceful research facility where Marcus played word games with rapidly growing alien children was about to become the front line of a war most humans didn't know existed. But Zara and Kane knew. Even at 2 weeks old, their genetic memory carried the knowledge of enemies their species had fought for millennia. They were ready to fight again. This time, they had something new to protect. The attack came at dawn, 3 weeks after the rescue. Marcus was in the observation lab, watching Zara and Kane demonstrate their problem-solving abilities to a fascinated xenobiology team, when every alarm in the facility began screaming at once. "Unknown vessels approaching," Admiral Reeves's voice crackled over the comm system. "All personnel to emergency stations. This is not a drill." Through the reinforced windows, Marcus could see shapes moving against the morning sky. Ships unlike anything in the Federation fleet, dark and angular, seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with predatory grace, circling the research facility like sharks scenting blood. Ketra was on her feet instantly, her massive frame tense with recognition. "Devourers," she growled. "They have found us." Zara and Kane, now physically equivalent to human 8-year-olds despite being only weeks old, flanked Marcus protectively. The casual playfulness they'd shown moments before had vanished, replaced by something cold and focused. "Marcus," Zara said, her voice carrying harmonics that made the walls vibrate slightly, "stay close. They come for us, but they will try to hurt you to reach us." The first Devourer ships landed in the facility's courtyard with sounds like tearing metal. Creatures poured out that made nightmares seem pleasant. They stood roughly humanoid but wrong in every proportion. Two long limbs, joints that bent in directions that hurt to look at, faces that seemed to shift when not observed directly. Dr. Webb grabbed her scanner, hands shaking. "My God, what are those things?" "Genetic parasites," Ketra replied grimly. "They consume the biological essence of other species to enhance themselves. They have been hunting Valerian young for centuries because our genetic structure provides them with intelligence and strength that their own evolution cannot achieve." The facility's defensive systems engaged. Automated turrets rose from concealed positions, laying down covering fire that forced the Devourers to take shelter. But Marcus could see more ships approaching. "Too many. The facility won't hold," Admiral Reeves reported from the command center. "Evacuation shuttles are en route, but we need 10 minutes to prep the civilians." Kane looked at his sister. Something passed between them, some form of communication that went beyond words. They both turned to their mother. "We are ready," Kane said simply. Ketra's expression showed a pain deeper than physical injury. "You are still children. This was not supposed to happen for years yet." "We are Valerian," Zara replied with dignity that seemed impossible from someone so young. "This is what we were born for." Marcus stepped forward. "What are you talking about? You're not seriously considering?" Both twins looked at him with eyes that held sudden depths of understanding. "Marcus," Zara said gently, "you gave us life. Now we give you protection. This is the Valerian way." Before anyone could protest, the twins moved. What followed challenged everything humans thought they knew about physics, biology, and the nature of violence itself. Zara and Kane flowed from the observation room like liquid death. Their movements seemed to exist outside normal spacetime, too fast and fluid for the eye to properly track. They reached the courtyard where Devourers had taken positions behind makeshift barricades. The first Devourer never saw Zara coming. One moment it was firing at Federation defensive positions. The next, it was separated into component parts with surgical precision. Zara moved to the next target without pause, her child-sized hands wielding strength that crumpled armored exoskeletons like paper. Kane took a different approach. Instead of pure force, he seemed to anticipate Devourer movements before they made them. He positioned himself where enemies would be, not where they were, striking with perfect timing. Creatures that had terrorized entire star systems felt a tactical brilliance from a being barely a month old. "Impossible," Dr. Webb whispered, watching the carnage through the observation window. "Children can't possess that level of combat ability." "They are not children as you understand them," Ketra said with mixture of pride and sorrow. "Valerian young carry the genetic memory of every warrior in their lineage. In times of great danger, that memory awakens. They become everything their ancestors were." The battle raged for 17 minutes. During that time, Marcus watched two beings he'd helped bring into the world systematically dismantle a force that had devastated multiple Federation outposts. The twins moved with perfect coordination, covering each other's blind spots, anticipating each other's strategies. But, for every Devourer they eliminated, more ships landed. The facility's defenses began to fail. "There are too many," Admiral Reeves reported. "We need immediate reinforcement or the transmission cut off as something massive struck the command center." Marcus saw new Devourer forms emerging from the latest ships. These were different. Larger. More coordinated. Leadership cast. Alpha predators, Ketra said grimly. They have brought their elder forms. The Alpha Devourers moved differently than their lesser kin. Where the others had charged forward in disorganized hunger, these advanced with calculated precision. They studied Zara and Kane's fighting patterns, adapted their approach, began working together to isolate the twins. For the first time since the battle began, the twins were being pushed back. They're learning, Marcus realized with growing horror. The Alphas are figuring out how to counter their abilities. One of the Alpha Devourers managed to get behind Kane, appendages extending toward the young Valerian's head. Marcus recognized the gesture from Ketra's earlier explanations. Neural extraction. The creatures were trying to steal Kane's genetic memory directly. Marcus didn't remember making the decision to move. One moment he was in the observation lab, the next he was running across the courtyard with a plasma torch from the medical bay. Marcus, no! Zara's scream carried harmonics that shattered windows throughout the facility. The plasma torch struck the Alpha Devourer center mass, burning through its exoskeleton and dropping it before it could complete the neural extraction. Marcus rolled away from the falling creature, adrenaline making everything seem slow and surreal. Then, Kane was beside him, golden eyes blazing with something that transcended normal emotion. You risked yourself for me, the young Valerian said in wonder. Your family, Marcus replied, surprising himself with how naturally the words came. Family protects family. What happened next would become legend among the Valerian clans for generations to come. Kane threw back his head and let out a sound that seemed to come from the depths of space itself. Zara joined him, their voices creating harmonics that resonated through dimensions humans had no names for. Every Valerian who had ever lived, every warrior who had fallen in defense of their people, every guardian who had given their life for something greater than themselves, their accumulated knowledge and strength flowed into two small beings standing in a besieged research facility. The twins became something beyond individual consciousness. They became the living embodiment of an entire species' protective instincts. The remaining Devourers, Alpha class and lesser forms alike, simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed in the conventional sense, but unraveled at the molecular level by forces that operated beyond current scientific understanding. When the battle ended, when the silence returned, Zara and Kane collapsed. The genetic memories that had flowed through them retreated, leaving behind two exhausted children who had just saved hundreds of lives. Marcus knelt beside them, checking for injuries he probably couldn't treat anyway. Are they? Dr. Webb approached cautiously. They will recover, Ketra said, though her voice carried notes of concern. But they have experienced the full weight of Valerian history. They are no longer truly children. They cannot be. Admiral Reeves emerged from the damaged command center, looking like someone who had just redefined his understanding of the universe. Dr. Chen, we need to discuss what just happened here. Marcus looked down at Zara and Kane, now sleeping peacefully against his legs. What's to discuss? They protected us. Just like they said they would. The Federation needs to understand the implications of this bond, Admiral Reeves continued. The military applications alone. Ketra's massive form moved between the Admiral and her children. There will be no military applications, she said with finality that brooked no argument. My children have chosen their path. They are Marcus's guardians now, as he is their family. The Federation may benefit from this relationship, but it will never control it. She looked directly at Marcus. You have a choice to make, young healer. My children will grow into the most formidable protectors your galaxy has ever seen. But they will also carry the weight of their people's history. Are you prepared for what that means? Marcus looked at the sleeping twins, remembering the moment he'd first seen Ketra trapped beneath twisted metal, the decision to help despite every logical argument against it. I didn't think I was prepared to deliver alien babies either, he said with a tired smile. Seems to have worked out okay. 6 months later, Marcus stood on the observation deck of the Federation flagship, watching Zara and Kane spar in the training bay below. They moved like dancers, like mathematicians solving elegant equations through motion. Beautiful and terrible and utterly devoted to protecting the human who had helped them enter the world. The galaxy had learned about the bond between humans and the Valerian Guardians. Some species approached with respect, seeking alliance with beings who commanded such protection. Others kept their distance, unwilling to risk confrontation with Marcus's fierce defenders. The Devourer threat had ended completely. Word spread quickly through shadow networks that the predatory species leadership caste had been eliminated by 2 Valerian children defending their chosen family. No Devourer had been seen in civilized space since. Marcus had become something unprecedented in galactic politics, a human with guardians who could reshape the balance of power simply by existing. Any regrets? Admiral Reeves asked, joining him at the observation window. Marcus watched Zara pause in her sparring to wave at him, her golden eyes bright with affection and absolute loyalty. Ask me again when they're teenagers, he replied. In the training bay, Kane looked up at the observation deck and made a gesture that meant family in Valerian Sign Language. Marcus gestured back, still amazed that a simple decision to help a dying mother had led to this moment. He had gained 2 fierce guardians. But, more than that, he had gained something humanity had never possessed before, proof that compassion, offered freely and, without expectation of reward, could forge bonds stronger than any alliance, more enduring than any treaty. The universe was vast and, often hostile. But, Marcus Chen walked through it protected by beings who had decided that his kindness was worth any sacrifice, any battle, any risk. And, in a galaxy where strength was typically measured in weapons and warships, that made him one of the most powerful individuals alive. He just hoped he could live up to their faith in him.